And here we are. You thought we were going to go down to all the way to one, didn't you? No, 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 no. I couldn't wait. I've waited so long to have this next visitation, if you'll let's say it that way. And so it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Adam Abraham, and this is the Onesciousness Journal. Okay, I'm getting that word consciousness into the consciousness of humanity, but this is the Consciousness Journal, and we're going to explore life as not not so much as we think about it, but more so as at least we've come to know it to be. Okay, we're going to talk about things that we see are happening that are part of the entire milieu, you might say, and yet we're generally not practicing what is. We're practicing what we have thought to be, so to speak. And today I'm also with guest with a well, all of my guests are special, but some of them I've had really special moments with, or I'll say more special moments with. And today's guest is Stephen A. Ross, Dr. Stephen A. Ross. And he probably doesn't care about this or not, Ph.D., but I met him with the World Research Foundation in Oak Creek, Arizona, years ago. He was a guest on Talk for Food, and he is a kindred spirit. I will say that with great, great confidence. And in fact, I will bring him in. Hold on a second, Stephen. You'll see when you're there because I'm dialing my way through here. Here we go. And I need to do one other little detail. Oh, add you to the screen. Here we go. See, these are little details the producer does, even when he's the host. Okay, there we go. And now bring it on in. Here we go. Steven.
Yippee, Adam. Hi there.
Yeah. It is a pleasure to have you here and a pleasure to be doing what we're about to do. I would say about to, I don't know, say we want to make history. I think we're going to change history. We're going to change his story. Okay, if you know what I mean. So, and let's see here. I can see, I can see comments. So first of all, Stephen is an author. Uh, he wrote a book called "And Nothing Happened, but You Can Make It Happen." And I happen to have read his book prior to actually having had him on Talk for Food, and we had really a good time right from the first off because this was like maybe 12 years ago, if you believe this. Kind of get me up to date, Stephen.
Well, I have another 5 books since that time. A book on dreams, uh, 2 books on Royal Rife and his Rife microscope, a
Hmm.
book about the unpublished papers of Manly P. Hall, and a book on some channeled poetry from the spirit world, which you and I will definitely get into. But it's been a beautiful 12 years. I always consider that I have a blessed and magical life.
Uh huh. Well, I tell you, I when I went to your site, and I'm trying to do some producer stuff while I do it, but when I went to your site, less complicated. This would have been actually it wouldn't have been a good place because it didn't have, but I can show it to here. Wait a minute, I can show it here too. So um, I could see a lot of your activity. I'm going to, oh, maybe that'll work. There it is. Okay. Lesscomplicated.net. Simple solutions for life. I like the concept because it's become much more evident that the answers to the questions that we are dealing with in this thing called life, or that we think of as life, is the answers are more toward the direction of simplicity, not complexity. Complexity provides a lot of opportunity for distortion and you could say a discombobulation. But
Right.
this is where you've gone, and so you've got like the books on the technology and stuff. We talked about some of that, say your technology, but the Tesla, but Rife technology, and others. You've been connected to a lot of these in ways that are far more uh, intimate and more direct than most people. And so you've got a real perspective. In addition to that, history. And so here we go. Watch this. Ah, okay, that works. Made sense. I'm, anyway, this is a fun experience. Some of the observations that I have made, and some that you, it's very clear that you have made as well, is if I was to say it in a nutshell, to try to say it simply, we oftentimes think of ourselves as spiritual beings having what we call a physical experience. And what my observation is, though, is that we are spiritual beings who are calling ourselves spiritual beings, but we are acting as though we are physical beings with all of the limitations that we have associated with physicality, so to speak. Is that a fair assessment?
Wonderfully said. That is stated so succinctly and perfectly, Adam. That is exactly right. We tend to be at this time talking a good story, but not walking the talk. In other words, from most people from a religious standpoint are using these terms occasionally, but they really don't believe it, in my opinion. Um, and we have an interesting crossroads here because both you and I, as we have gotten together again, have made love as the focus of our philosophy and what we want to be espousing to others. And yet, the dynamic of religion that exists currently today, uh, there's kind of a disconnect for people. And here's what I mean. Part of my understanding historically is religion has created a boogeyman. That boogeyman, quote, the devil, is always around the corner and is always about to get us, but religion is going to protect us. The church is going to be the intermediary that is going to protect us from this fearful energy that is around, which to me is the antithesis of love. I look at the great revelators throughout time who have come to be examples for us. They preached love. They preached love thy neighbor, love thy enemy. And yet, the followers, the people who are keeping the um, buildings alive, have created something that they are protecting us from. They are protecting us from this, quote, evil or dark force. And I see a big disconnect between the love examples that were given by the revelators and the writings which are protecting us from evil. Now, I don't want to keep going on and on, but that's the premise I am coming from right now is that the love, even though it's mentioned, is far less down than you and I being protected by the churches, synagogues, whatever.
I tend to one, I agree. The other thing, and I did some edit, so you can see the screen, can you?
Yes.
There we go. I made you bigger. I did. You said you asked me beforehand, but I wanted to have more of you in here. So here we go. Anyway, I was able to do that. Um, Here's the thing. These are habits of consciousness, first of all, and it's really interesting. We talked about in some of our notes back and forth to each other, and we talked about the first council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when you could say the what became the Roman Catholic Church or the Holy Church, whatever it's called, was established by Constantine, the emperor at the time, who became the first pope. And a number of things happened at that time, not simply just a decree of it all, not just the conclave that the meetings were and all these people came together to decide what the narrative was going to be. It's fascinating how profoundly people today are being influenced by narratives. And it's fascinating to see how far back the practice of establishing narratives, and you might even say enforcing them, go. And so what appears to have happened in the establishment of what became the church, it also had to do with dealing with the fact that people had their own pre-existing ideas about reality, about life, and that included a little term called reincarnation, and all of that became persona non grata in mental uh, terms. And basically, outside of simply, they didn't simply make these changes in the perceptual lexicon, if you will. They also backed it up with some very drastic initiatives to dissuade people from thinking along those lines because they had already been thinking that way. They made some drastic moves to stop that line of thinking in the people with whom and to whom they had some influence.
And you're right, because even the question that was asked of Jesus, "Are you Elijah come again?" Where would that concept of even have come for people to have asked this type of question? But as of this morning, according to the Center for Global Christianity, in the United States, there are 200 Christian sects, and worldwide, there are 45,000, not 100, Christian sects, all supposedly coming from one book and the Word. Now, this is coming from a pro Christian group saying there are 2 billion Christians, 200 sects here in the United States, 45,000. The reason is that when people cannot ascribe and live by a concept, they will do exactly what you just said, Adam. They will modify, quote, the word so that their actions will fit into what it needs to be.
Mhm.
And so I've often looked, we hear the story according to this book that here we had an individual arguing with the rabbis at 13 years old, and yet he never wrote one thing. And
Mhm.
for me, this is because the written word can be misinterpreted 200, let's say 45,200 times, but the example stands. Here was an example of love in this religion, and you have other religions with their revelators also demonstrating love and beauty and truth. So it's not that I am making up that there is 45,200 different uh, people interpreting. This is the reality. But love, beauty, that stands forever.
Yes, it's interesting. This is part of, we have this part of life that you consider, or at least at this level of expression, the measurable, the tangible, so to speak, and or you can even say the valuable. But there is another part of it which would be considered immeasurable and intangible, and you could also say priceless. And the thing about it, oh, there's another word, infinite. And so the infinite part of life is the immeasurable. It is the intangible. It is not only the unseen, it's the seen too. See, this is so getting into this thing and perceiving life as spiritual. And see, that's the other thing. Religion has, in some kind of way, let's say, spirituality has been lumped into the bucket of religion, generally speaking. I'm not saying they took it. I'm not saying they annexed it, anything like else. But generally speaking, if you use the word spirit, it takes on the context of a religious leaning one way or another. So when I use the word, there's no religious leanings whatsoever. Spirituality encompasses all of experience, both the seen and the unseen. And in fact, it transcends the seen. It also causes the seen. And also spirituality can cause uh, if it was just you and me, I would use an expletive, but I'm not going to right now, okay? But the point is that spirituality can include and encompass the totality of human experience and more than humans can even imagine. That's what
Absolutely.
that's spirituality.
Yes, and you and I dovetail very, very much. I would call myself a spiritist from the standpoint I'm spiritual but not religious because virtually every religion and philosophy, as soon as it is formed, limits, puts a boundary on the the infinite to, especially now when our science is showing there's like millions of galaxies with billions and billions. And then to think all these arguments that are going on this little planet going, yeah, God told me and God is directing me. It's like, really? I mean, that is a concept 2,000 years ago before we really saw the, the infinitude of what exists. The more we're going out there with our devices, every day it's like, oh my gosh, it's even bigger. It's infinite. And we can't even understand these numbers that the scientists are coming up with of just how many planets and how big everything is. And yet here we have people, and before we were doing the show, there's this fine line about ragging on people, but I decided I'm going to do it anyway. I am seeing more and more on the media these people with bigger and bigger crosses, with the women with their open collars with a cross, intimating they are Christian. And the bigger it is, the more Christian I am. And yet, all of their actions bespeak the complete opposite of the revelatory. What you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. And yet, little children, if they're not in my geographical area, they don't count. My neighbor, if he's not my religion philosophy, he doesn't count.
Hmm.
People against me, who according to my revelator, love thy enemy, uh, that doesn't count. But I'm going to put a bigger whatever on my chest. So that is going to be my one non-loving statement about what is currently going on. Adam, in ancient days, the philosophers lived their philosophy and walked their talk. And today, somebody uses, I'm a this, I'm a that. They don't live the precepts, but they talk a good story. And now I'm going to go back into the love element and say the revelators throughout time, the ancient philosophers, the mystics, even in alchemy, and Marsilio Ficino said, all actions that take place are done through love. Love, love, love. But when we can't really pull that off, we start talking more. And guess what? We make our 45,001 new religion so we can encompass our actions that now we want to be doing. The simplicity, the reason I mentioned even my company less complicated is there's more of a simplicity to live life in a more happy and balanced way than trying to live by somebody else's rules of, hey, this is what God said, and if you don't do this, you're going to a very hot place.
Well, see, here's the thing about all of that. We are so we got these habits, and the habits have been carried on from generation to generation. The things that don't, and they are habits. Before they are habits of behavior, they are habits of perception and of thinking that are being repeated over and over and over again. And so we get into a conundrum that if we don't develop and unveil a clear view of actually who and what we are, we will continue to simply repeat those habits of thinking time and time again. And although we think that there's such a thing as time and space, in the grander sense of things, they're not. It's a timeless. You talk about quantum physics, they talk about um, non-locality. Okay, we
Right.
talk about 0 point. There's the thing we talk about the eternal now. I mean, Eckhart Tolle, he became. I love that book when it came out, The Power of Now.
Yes.
Well, today it's become more, in a way of speaking. I got two titles: The Power of No, KNOW, and The Power of No, NO. Okay, we have, in a way of speaking, until we are in the here and now. Okay, and seeing things and seeing ourselves connected to all things. This is the I want to say the precepts underlying the word consciousness is because it leaves no doubt, no equivocation in the interconnectedness and relatedness of everything, everyone, to each other and to the whole, to the source. In consciousness, when we understand, even came up with another word, understand. When we understand this connectivity, this is the divinity, this is the inalienableness of our total reality, of the totality. it can't be broken up because there's only it. But we have all these other things that these are creations. I remember so years and years ago when we can think about this, the idea we're convinced that someone or something created the human body, for example, and so God created it. Some think some extraterrestrials created it. I mean, there are stories all along, but the indweller, the one who is actually moving everything, is not giving credit. In other, we are thought to be the actual end result. We are thought to be this, and this is where we're talking about where we're acting as we're saying we're spiritual, but acting as though this is the limit.
But Adam, you have succinctly said it's based on training. Now, what is going on in this earth plane is fear. It's fear and love. And as long as there's fear, people are kept in line in very narrow parameters. Why? Because they're fearful of stepping out of the line, stepping out of their religion, stepping out of their politics, and there's going to be retribution. It is constant fear. But now I'm going to go back again to what you have been talking about historically. Now, can you imagine? Let's go back historically where in this long lineage of philosophy of religion, we are now here today. And those people who minister to us, the ministers, the priests, the rabbis, whomever, they obviously don't have the same fear that they are espousing to their listeners, because if they did, you wouldn't have what's going on in the Catholic Church. You wouldn't have the husband and wife family. You wouldn't have Mr. Whatever going, "Oh God, I have sinned again." And then a second time, "Oh God, I have sinned again." And all the followers saying, "Oh, it's okay. They're just human beings." My point of this is if these people who are closest to the word have no fear of what they are espousing, others should be fearful of, that whole system is broken. That system of holding people in fear. You and I are talking about something beautiful. You and I are talking about love and beauty and being oneness with nature and love. And that is my God. My God is a God of love. My revelators are revelators of love, not fear, not hatred. They are of love. And if anybody does not want to understand that, for me, that is their choice. That is their choice to live in fear and basically follow false gods who say one thing and yet they do another. Now, I am not the policeman of the world, but one thing I've noticed at this time is people just want to live a happier life. They want they want to feel good about living in this world. And yet the fear is always brought up to keep people back in line. Now, I noticed some of what's our opinion of a recent Vatican press conference. I'm not sure if it's what I just read today, but there's all this debate going on. Um, the Vatican's gone too far. The Pope has gone too far. This person's gone too far. They're actually making it easier for some people to thrive in this current conundrum where on one hand we're told we can do everything. And on the other hand, we're told don't do this and don't do that. Uh, your microphone is off, I think. So, Adam, yes, not quite hearing you, but I will continue. Okay, just continue on. That the reason I'm going through this line of philosophy is to try to inspire people to trust themselves. Do not believe in somebody who tells you they know the answer. And even to go as far as this, do not continue, if you want to be more of the spiritual being that you are, to continue to think you have to follow a book that is either 2,000 years old or 2,800 years old. Trust ourselves to follow beauty, love, and truth. Now, I'm not sure if people are able to hear me or not, but so yes, I will keep going. Uh, I have recently started a reminder, philosophical reminder of what the ancient revelators and teachers spoke about a long time ago, and that is to have a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. That is the lifestyle, a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. And my very wise wife said, Steve, that is a lifestyle, but people are going to wonder, how do you live that? We live it with love, in love, and through love. That is how you go. It's simplistic. Maybe it's too simplistic for people because there's usually a tendency to make things more difficult. So, yes, I see someone's comment they can hear me, but not the host right now, Adam. So, maybe you want to take a quick break and see if we can, because your words are also very wise. So, we're going to take a short break here, 10-minute break, 10-minute break. Thank you.